but very clearly and very simplified right there in the scripture. He teaches his disciples, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Yahweh. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven, or that spiritual Zion in heaven, or that earthly Zion right here on earth. Now, right there in that last verse is kind of why I went through those 2 or 3 segments, breaking down the contrast between modern corporate Christianity or counterfeit Christianity that has been plagued by that antichrist spirit of the world, as opposed to true Orthodox Judaic Christianity, or the true Messianic faith of the New Covenant as a way of life. So, right there, verse 20. Moving on to concerning anger. Verse 21, you have heard that it was said, those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you, that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gifts at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar. Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him or her, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Now right there, Yeshua was making a point. The Messiah himself was making a point, okay? Yeshua, Jesus, being who he is, who he was back then and who he is today, but spoke boldly and directly the ultimate truth right in your face. Not only did he speak in mysterious parables, but he was also flat out in his teachings, and even had a touch of humor to his way of life and his teachings, if you're able to really pick that up from the accuracy and interpretations of his teaching in the scriptures. But that was just a prime example right there. Somebody who chooses to hold grudges and doesn't forgive. We'll get into more direct teachings of forgiveness, from Yeshua in the next chapter or so. But basically, he's saying come to terms quickly with your accuser. If you happen to be in an argument or a dispute with somebody, in an argument, and it becomes a serious matter to where it becomes legal, you're getting involved with the law, man's law, going to court. In many ways, it could be as serious as a legal divorce between a couple, or separation, or even two brethren or sisterin, two roommates or whatever, having a simple little dispute that could eventually build up, to somebody going to court or being locked up in prison because you never actually made an attempt to actually make peace and forgive that person. It speaks of you shall not murder in the original commandments. Yeshua was also making a point of a spiritual murder with our tongue through lack of forgiveness, gossiping and talking trash about somebody behind their back. Justified anger at the same time is justified anger, or righteous anger, even Yah willing. That's a different ballpark. But even through righteous anger, there comes a point of, well, I'll let it go. I forgive that person. You don't have to like that person. You don't have to hang out with that particular person if they tend to be a certain way and they don't ever change. That's what he means by don't cast your pearls before swine, which we'll also get to, here in the next couple of verses, or next chapter. But no, basically, yeah, strive to make peace, come to terms quickly. We murder with our tongues through gossip and holding grudges for, it's sad to say, but for even weeks, months, years, still just holding that nasty stuff in our hearts. Come to terms quickly to make peace. Justified anger is one thing, but when you hold on to even righteous anger and it seeps over, eventually seeps over to that thin line becoming unrighteous anger and just bitterness, you have to eventually let go of that rubbish, man. You can't hold on to that stuff. That separates you from true righteousness and oneness with the Father and the Messiah. Now, moving on to as I clear my throat, verse 27, concerning adultery. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. Okay. That last verse is probably one of the most misinterpreted scriptures I've heard in the past 10 or 15 years by other people. It doesn't mean literally he wants you to literally cut off your hand and gouge out your eyeball with a hook, because you can't stop looking at pornography or naked women or just other women. No, come on, man. What did we talk about in the previous segments, even breaking down the original 10 Commandments like 2 segments ago? That's ultra pharisaical legalism, okay? That's extremism and so-called extremist Puritan pharisaical legalism, okay? Yeshua was completely anti-pharisaical in that time. He said, unless your righteousness succeeds that of the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, for example, if your right eye causes you to sin, for example, if you're a married man, officially married, even Yah willing, not just by man's law, but you're in a covenant and a agreement or an official relationship with somebody, especially a marriage, you want to be faithful to that person. So what it means to commit adultery with that person in your heart is looking at some other woman when you are a married man, or vice versa, a married man checking out another man besides her husband. And granted, like, we all do that to different degrees. It's okay, even as a married man or a married woman, to check out another person that of the opposite sex that may be attractive to you. Like, oh, that's a good looking woman. Man, she is a sexy thing. She's a pretty woman. Man, her husband's a lucky man. But then you say to yourself, but I'm a lucky man. My wife is beautiful. She's perfect for me. I am in love with her. She is my queen. So we all have those little natural caveman fantasies to a certain degrees. That's natural. We're all sexual beings as human beings. John knows these things. He actually reveals these things to us as part of his will and his creation. But if we are officially married to somebody or really committed to somebody, we can gradually or casually check out other people, like, oh, that's a good looking person, that's a good looking woman, whatever, for example. But then there's a certain level that goes over into the realm of lust, where we should really guard our minds and our hearts